one of the things that's so important that I've touched on a lot is the microbiome. So the microorganisms that live in and on us and how important they are. And a lot of people realize they're there. And for many people, they think, well, that's dirt, that's germs, that's disease, and we got to wash all that off. And there's some truth that we pick up pathogenic organisms, cholera, tetany. There are some things that we don't really want to have inside our bodies, but it's so important that we get around healthy dirt and we get some of that in our bodies. One of the ways that that happens is a kid basically goes outside and plays in the dirt. If someone's in the park or someone's in their yard and they're kicking up some dirt, they're going to get that in their body. Now, the city dirt isn't going to be the same stuff. You guys are going to have the real dirt. You're going to have chicken poop dirt, cow poop dirt, rooster, right. All these different kinds of poop dirt. We can talk about the difference between a rooster, a chicken, and a hen at another time, because that's still a mystery. I'm still figuring that out. Like the bull and the cow and the steer and the calf. And anyway, thank God I got a different way of making a living, right? But I think that it's important for people to know that what they're eating is so much more valuable when it's grown properly. There's a study done about a can of spinach that came out of World War II. They opened it up and they looked at the mineral content, and it was hundreds of times more mineral dense than fresh spinach today. And the obvious reason there is back when that was canned, that was grown in organic soil because that's all there was. There wasn't the pesticides to the degree, I'm sure there were some, and herbicides and whatever else that goes into soil. So what a shame it is that you can go to a store right now and get fresh spinach and you don't have the quality of mineral content than what's found in a can that's been sitting around. And one of the questions, of course, was, did the canned minerals leach in, and were some of those? And that wasn't the case. The minerals in the can were not. They'd be a different type. So they made sure that that wasn't it. But when you talk about good soil, like you're mentioning, one of the things I want viewers to know is that we sense what's in our intestine through one of the main nerves of our cranium. There's 12 cranial nerves. One of them is called the vagus nerve. That vagus nerve goes down from the base of our skull through our neck and goes into our intestine and reads and calculates the biome and the chemistry of that. And we create a relationship between our mind chemistry, the chemicals made in our mind, and what's made in our intestine. Serotonin is a chemical that we make, and it basically determines your happiness and level of success in life. So if you're born with a lot of serotonin, you're going to be happier, more successful. The studies have been done on this. And if you destroy yourself to the degree where you can't really make a lot of serotonin, you're going to end up in depression and be less successful and less exuberant about life. Some of the antidepressants, if you look them up, are serotonin uptake inhibitors. So they stop you from making serotonin, or they stop you from destroying serotonin that you make. They inhibit the uptake of it. So you're constantly circulating higher levels of serotonin and you feel better because of it. Now, obviously, a pharmaceutical answer like that has a lot of detriments, and I won't get into all that. But if you can have a healthy fruit or vegetable go into your body that's grown in nutrient-dense, healthy soil, the stuff that you're having on your farm, it's going to create that serotonin because it's going to communicate through the vagus nerve, and you're going to be making. Now, you make some serotonin in your intestine. You also make some in your brain. So imagine eating your food like your kids. Your kids are healthy as horses, right? There's really a healthy group of kids, and there's a reason for that. They're outside playing, they're outside doing physical work, and they're eating some of the most amazing food that can be grown in the right soil and the right temperature all around you. So when you talk about doing what you do and getting those soil organisms and getting that body to respond, I mean, it's probably obvious to you that your kids and you are kind of healthier than a lot of other people walking around. Can you see that? I see that.
Yeah, probably, but that microbiome is amazing. What the research on that is coming out, and probably it's been there for a long time. I don't know. You're a lot better at looking at that research than I am. I see stuff that comes across, but and what it can do for health, and a lot of the health professionals that we've heard from stuff, they say, fix the gut. That's where things start at. And it is that creating a healthy microbiome that in the gut and actually on your skin too. You know, and you were saying something about, which was amazing to me too, the DNA in the
Yeah,
in that.
if you took all the DNA of all your cells and you were to hollow out the body, let's say, just look at a normal person's body, all the DNA of all your cells would fill up almost one leg. It wouldn't even fill up the volume of one leg. And all the DNA of all the bacteria in your body would fill up the whole rest of your body. So think about that amazing amount of DNA that's in you that isn't really you. I mean, look how interesting it is to say, okay, this is a liver cell. And you look under a microscope and histology, and we saw a liver cell or a heart cell, and we say, okay, that's a different organ because that cell has a similarity. Well, what about another organ that we call the biome? Just because it's not condensed in a fashion, a little ball sitting inside our chest, doesn't mean that we're not affected the same way an organ's affecting us. Our intestinal microflora is another organ. It's another brain. They'll say the intestines are the second brain, the heart, third brain. So these different brains are, what are they doing? Well, they're creating the chemistry. What does a brain do? It records information. It also creates chemicals that communicate with the body to create different moods from different stimuli. So when we're doing all the right things, or most of the right things, we are going to have that enhanced chemistry through the proper number of organisms. There's 1,000 different species of bacteria in our body. 1,000 different species. So it isn't like you can take a probiotic and say, okay, well, that's good. Well, that is good. It's better than nothing. And I always tell people, get a probiotic and write down what's in it, and then take that bottle and then grab another bottle with different probiotics and try to get as many in that you can store by, and then eat fermented foods. And I think on your farm, you're going to have in the air, microorganisms that are going to be that next to get us up to whatever number. Because this 1,000 different species isn't a healthy person, but a super healthy person might have 10 times that. We don't know.
And it's amazing to me how loose we are with antibiotics. How easily they're prescribed, and we're putting that into our food and stuff too. The antibiotics into our animals so easily too, and it's really all over the place. And the danger of that to our health. I mean, we don't think about that enough, I don't think.
One of the things, gut inflammation from antibiotics to too much sugar to processed foods has led to a series. They've seen a really strong correlation to different emotional disorders. I made a simple list: depression, bipolar disorder, OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, schizophrenia, and autism are all related to the gut flora. In autistic kids, they found 10 times more Clostridium differentialis in their gut than kids that weren't autistic. So we know Clostridium or C. diff is a pathological organism. It's 10 times higher. Then the question is why? Maybe because it has so much room to grow, because there aren't healthy bacteria taking up that turf, taking up that space. There's only so much space in there. There's incredible amount of absorptive surface. It's like the size of a tennis court.
Overgrowth.
Right. Yeast, fungi. So you have other issues in there, and this is a newly explored area. I think we're getting better and better at this kind of stuff because we have attention is being paid a lot of times because of autistic children. To have the high number of autistic children right now, and I believe if you look in the Amish culture, there's not a lot of autistic kids, or there's hardly any. And what do they do differently than us? There's a few things, so let's get the science right on this. But certainly one of the things they do is they're not eating processed foods, and they're around a lot of soil organisms.
Well, certainly, I mean, autism is becoming very prevalent, almost an epidemic there. There's so much more of that. And mental health issues are becoming more and more prevalent. And there's got to be a reason there somewhere. There's a lot of, it's multiple factorial, I'm sure, but boy, you got to think about some of the things we're doing with our nutrition. It's got to make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I just one of my things to tell people is eat every apple you see. Right? Eat every apple you see. You're over someone's house, just take the apple. Don't even ask. Just start eating the apple that you see on the counter. Because if there's one food that's never really been torn apart or destroyed by dietary advice, it's an apple. Right? There are carnivore diets. We can be fussy here, where people can't eat an apple. They have autoimmune diseases and they don't do well with certain foods. I've heard of individuals that if they have a glass of apple cider, eat an apple, they can fall into a depression for 3 months. It's really fascinating. But
well, unfortunately, you also got to watch for the chemicals that were put on an apple.
Sure.
Unfortunately, we're in that era too.
Yeah. I mean, you can clean some of that off, but some of that is,
right.
inside that apple as well. But I think it's really crucial that when we look at this, we also explore how this affects our immune system, our mental health as well. But right now, such a hot topic is getting a strong immune system. And touch on that. Touch on some ideas you have that you can tell our listeners, our viewers, to deal with strengthening their own immune systems.
Right. So, like what we already talked about, your gut health. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's some lifestyle things, including making sure you get enough sleep, regular sleep, making sure you stay hydrated. Your body needs that. Making sure you're eating well otherwise. Those things are really important. I know for myself, if I ever do get in trouble, it's because I've violated a couple of those things. And then one of the things that we've been doing in our family for our kids and for my patients for a long time is vitamin D and C and zinc, and the vitamin D especially. I mean, and that's something with the virus that I've been pounding home to my patients. Talking to them about that whenever I can.
I posted on Facebook multiple articles on vitamin D. It's just 30 years of research we have that vitamin D enhances the immune system for flu viruses. And I don't care if it's this one or the other ones. They do have some things in common. And one of them is that vitamin D is a major factor in severity. To deter it from actually getting you, it works. But the severity that I've seen these graphs that are now coming out on serum vitamin D, like what's in your blood and how severely you end up with COVID-19 is just, it's a direct correlation. And you think about,
I've seen some of that.
You think about who's suffering this condition, people in nursing homes. Well, they don't get out in the sun and they're usually not supplemented with vitamin D. I said right along, when someone goes and gets a COVID test, they should be handed a bottle of vitamin D to take. Government issue, right? We have government issue hand sanitizer. We had our governor was having prisoners make it in prison. I can't see, vitamin D is so cheap compared to anything else, but it makes you wonder when you follow the money, what's going on. But getting that, and like you're saying, to me, that's some of it's mastering the fundamentals: sleep, motion, diet, and also there's some tweaks on it. Stress levels make a difference, right? I think acute stress is important, but chronic stress is gonna
right. That's the difference, right?
Right. That's gonna be that.
Sugar, sugar's immune system depressor, so making sure, and that's part of your old diet thing too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like you and I were talking one time about how suffering is necessary. And it sounds kind of insane, but if you don't stress yourself, if you don't push yourself, you can't really get anywhere. Everybody admires somebody that has done something amazing. And usually they've done something amazing because they got disciplined, they worked hard, they stuck to it, they persevered, they pushed themselves. They had a big reason for doing it, and then they did it. And it wasn't easy. So if you seek a life of comfort, I think you're doomed. I think you have to seek a life of doing things that are uncomfortable, right? Yeah. When I started doing these podcasts and when I started making videos and opening up this an online university we're going to open up soon, they're uncomfortable things, right? But I could have easily just rested on my laurels, as they say. I'm not even sure what a laurel is, but resting on any success I had, and that isn't very stimulating. I mentioned other times I had a 101-year-old patient that taught me that if you don't make an ass of yourself once in a while, you're really not going to do very well. Because he wasn't afraid to be dumb. He was a super bright guy, but he wasn't afraid to try something new and not be good at it. I've gotten a kick out of being bad at stuff lately, and then improving upon it. Just working at it, taking criticisms, that kind of thing. So that's just, to me, that's part of being healthy. Challenge that body, right? When we go up a 14,000-foot mountain, what do? It's not easy. You were talking earlier about Madison. My daughter.
You should tell that whole Mount Massive story. Because there was an example. You and me, had done stuff like that before. But then you have Madison and you have Dr. Brittany Stamer, and what they went through to get there was so much more than what we had to do. And I admired them so much for making that all the way to the top of that. It was amazing.
Yeah.